Hello, termites. How is everybody? How's everybody doing? Are you guys in a flare-up state? Looks like some people, Florida, Texas, didn't behave so well. The Orlando airport, 260 out of 500 people have it. And then somebody said, so half. I'm like, no, I suck at math. That's a little more than half. It's 10 more than half. What are we drinking? We are drinking some Infuse Spirits lemon vodka. And if you can see, there's lemon peel in the vodka, and it's made in North Las Vegas. I don't know when I muled this home. I'm not the hugest vodka person. I like to taste it, and then I like to send it to my friend Peter. So I always put it with a little Fresca because I'm kind of a sissy about vodka. And if I have too much vodka, I'll end up in prison. I get really mouthy. Okay, so last we checked in, Tanya's out in L.A. Tanya's running wild, amok, shall we say amok? Yes, and she has signed with the management label Far Out. We're on, for anybody that cares, page 141, chapter 29. We're almost to the pictures in the middle. Far Out, that's the management company I said she shouldn't have signed with, almost succeeded in removing Dad from the management loop. I truly think those guys had no idea who or what they were dealing with. I guess they just thought of Bo Tucker as an old okie with no sense whatsoever. So it seemed odd when Steve Gold called Dad one day and said he guessed he could use some help in negotiating marketing and promotion budgets. Dad came in to see him and waited the usual 3 hours in the lobby before finally being ushered in through all those locked doors. Two things. You don't ever wait on somebody for 3 hours, and why all the locked doors? That makes me think there's cocaine back there, because that's what they do in Narcos. They lock a lot of doors. Dad asked Steve how he could be of help. Steve was pacing around in his usual state of agitation. I need some things okayed. I need you to make MCA okay them. Dad nodded. He was willing to help any way he could. Steve got wild-eyed and started waving his arms around. You've got to go in and tell Mike Matlin if he doesn't give us what we need, we're going to tear the hell out of his office. What? My dad thought he was hearing things. You smash up them damn records on his wall and he'll know we're serious about what we need. Oh, so they called the old Okie guy in to go do some dirty work. Of course, Dad refused to do anything of the kind, which is unusual because many times Daddy has been more than willing to do those kind of things. But I think the key is you can't tell Daddy he's got to do that. That's got to be of his own mind. He guessed right then that drugs had completely taken over the company. He didn't know for sure, but he certainly suspected it. Then he fired them, and one more management deal was history. For the time being, my dad was back in charge. Back to Daddy. I have few regrets in this life. I don't believe in looking back and saying, if only I hadn't done that. If cows could run, they'd catch rabbits. Remember that, termites, when you're going to sleep tonight. Just remember that line, because now I'm never going to forget it. If cows could run, they could catch rabbits. Not necessarily. How fast do they run? A rabbit can really go fast when they want. How fast can a cow go? I'm not sure I agree with that statement, but whatever. Those ifs will get you every time. My philosophy is this. Ready? You stumble, you fall, you get up and get over it. But if I do have a regret, it's when we were waiting to meet with the Far Out. That first day in 1977, I didn't walk out of that office and run like hell back to Nashville. They sued us when Dad fired them, and it ended up costing us a lot of money to leave, but it was worth every penny. I used to tell people that I signed the contract right after Elvis died. It ought to have been invalid by reason of Tanya's insanity. She's really torn up about that. Chapter 30. In the fall of 1980, I was in Las Vegas, staying at the Desert Inn, which was a great little casino and had a golf course in the back. At the time, the only one on the Strip, and I was so sad because they wrecked the golf course. Me and Louis got to play it a lot, and it was super awesome. It's not there anymore. Staying at the Desert Inn and taping a television show with Wayne Newton and Tony Bennett, both alive and still performing. I've been doing my usual hell raising around town, partying, drinking. My girlfriend Rhonda, an old pal and bodyguard from Henderson High, was with me, and we were having a blast. But we weren't causing any real trouble. But the biggest news I got into was I spilled a bottle of bubble bath into the jacuzzi in my suite in the Desert Inn, and the bubbles ran out all over the carpet. After we bubbled up the carpet at the Desert Inn, Rhonda and I thought we should get out for a while, so we slid on over to see GLEN Campbell. Okay, it's starting at the Riviera. We showed up, and Glenn did what many entertainers do for a visiting singer. He called me on stage and had me sing a couple songs. After the show, Rhonda and I went backstage and hung out for a while. Glenn introduced me to his wife, Sarah, Mac Davis's ex. Remember Mac Davis, that song? Then he sing, "You're having my baby. I'm a woman in love with a man that loves me. Something. You're having my baby." I don't know what else he sang. I'd never seen such a tiny woman. I'm not particularly big, but I felt like an Amazon next to her. Her hands were the size of a child's hands, and she was thin, thin, thin. That's 3 thins. I don't see how people could have weighed. I don't see how she could have weighed 75 or 80 pounds. People talk about our relationship like he was dating a child, but they should have seen his wife. Sarah was a lot more childlike than me. Age be damned. So that's good. After Rhonda and I hung out backstage at Glenn's show that night, we went back to the Desert Inn with a songwriter named Michael Smotherman. Luckily, we hadn't been kicked out over the bubble escapade, and the 3 of us sat around drinking and listened to songs half the night. Before Michael left, he made us promise to come back for Glenn's show the next night so we could party some more. Hell, we didn't have anything better to do. That's why you get right back over there and party your little ass off. The next night, Glenn was really coked up. Whoa. I was drunk, of course. I love, of course, and that I love that when people just aren't afraid to just admit it and go, I was drunk, of course. So you'd have to take a drunken woman's word for it, but there was a big difference between someone who's drinking and someone who's doing blow, and I could not agree more, Tanya, because when I bartended, the bartenders that drank were just fun and predictable. The cokeheads, this lady, not a fan. I'm not a fan of the cokeheads. The pot people, fine. But the coke, no. Sometimes it's just bouncing off. He was just bouncing off the wall. This is the truth. I'd never done cocaine in my life at that time. Frankly, it scared the crap out of me. I was one of those people who justified getting drunk by saying, well, it's legal and it isn't dope. Just dope. I like that that's a generic category. My grandpa used to say that. Is your cousin on dope? I don't know, Grandpa. Probably. Define dope. Do you mean prescription medication? Do you mean marijuana? We can find lots of ways to justify shit. That's another thing, termites. You're going to take that quote to your bedtime tonight, too. We can find lots of ways to justify shit. There's one thing I want to set straight. Glenn wrote in his book that I took him to some mysterious house where people were freebasing cocaine. I did no such thing. And Glenn and I never freebased. He got me confused with some other girlfriend in that story. Well, I'm glad we cleared that up. One more paragraph, termites. After the show, Rhonda was about half sick and wanted to go back to the Desert Inn, but then when Michael Smotherman suggested going over to Glenn's place to listen to some songs, I said I was in. I was way too drunk to be going anywhere, and the minute we got there, I curled up on the couch. Michael, who's an unbelievably talented songwriter, played a lot of his stuff and then switched to other writers he admired. Glenn left the room for a while, and I remember wondering why. I didn't have to wonder for long because he walked back in the living room with nothing on but tennis shoes and socks. Not a stitch of clothes. There I was on his couch, drunk as I could be, thinking, man, I ain't believing this. There's a rhinestone cowboy naked as a jaybird walking around in his tennis shoes. Then I crashed. That's the one big difference between being drunk and being high. If you're drinking, you're bound to pass out sooner or later. If you're on cocaine, you can get into trouble for days. I found that out firsthand later. So much termites. What have we learned? If a cow could run, it could catch rabbits. You can find lots of ways to justify shit. I think that's what you termites need to go to sleep knowing. You can find lots of ways to justify shit. We know that she wasn't a fan of Coke. Me neither. She's a drinker. Me too. Much more of a drinker. All right, termites. You're going to say to yourself, you're a worthy termite. And you can all be termites. And I asked my friend Ron if I could have it, because he told me about Night Termite, and he said I could have it. So you're all officially termites now. My termites, not Ron White's termites. His termites are much different. I like to think of you all as just a little bit smarter. Oh, did I say that out loud? No, Ron runs the gamut of fans. Some are CEOs, and some aren't. Okay, so that's it, termites. You take yourself to bed, tuck yourself in a nice little blanket. COVID's not over. And in some states it's getting better, but in many it's not. If you're in a bad state, wear your mask. Stay inside.